So what I'm about to say in this video seems very grim, almost morbid at first. But if you can make it through that part, then what I'm going to say after that is going to be extremely encouraging. I've been thinking a lot lately about my future, about the future of my business, about the future of my family. Maybe this comes at somewhat of an emotional point in life, midlife crisis kind of stuff perhaps. Also, I've just recently spent a lot of time away from my family, and I'm leaving tomorrow for a whole month away from the family. And so, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of emotionalism that comes into play there, but I've recently had this epiphany about my life and about my future and the future of my business in particular. I've been thinking about so much time that I've wasted on things that have really not created any kind of balance in my life. I just recently had a really interesting conversation with a fellow pressure washer in the industry. And I have lots of conversations with lots of guys, and generally speaking, I leave very pumped, like energized, motivated, and ready just to tackle the world. And I didn't leave that conversation unexcited, if you will, but it did cause me to kind of reflect on the visions and the goals that I have for my business and even for my personal life. This person was speaking large numbers, goals that were quite lofty. It's very energizing to hear people talk about their goals and how they plan to achieve those goals. And if you're like me, the gears just really begin to click and you just feel good about the future after coming off of those conversations. This was a little bit different, and I couldn't really figure out why that I wasn't so eager as I normally am. And I just began to pray about it, began to think about it. What I've come up with, I think, is that the things that were important to me 5, certainly 10 years ago, that just aren't as important to me today. Doesn't mean that those things are obsolete. Doesn't mean that they aren't impactful in my life and I have a passion for them. They just have a different place. And if I don't achieve those things, it just doesn't matter as much. I still have goals, still have dreams, passions, and desires, and I'm really excited to see if I can push the envelope enough, both physically and emotionally, to see if I can set those goals. Those are the things that really pump me up and get me excited. I haven't lost that. But as I think about balance in my life, I began to think about time that I've wasted on things that just really haven't amounted to much. So here's the grim part. And again, if you'll hear me out on this, I think that you will leave this video very encouraged for the future. So just yesterday, I asked my wife, I said, do you think much about your dad? He's been deceased now for a decade or more. He's a wonderful, godly man, made a great impact on a lot of people. She said, yeah, I think about him all the time, like almost maybe every day. And I said, what was his middle name? Hear me out on this. Now, I knew his middle name, but this is just part of the conversation. She told me his middle name, and I said, that's cool that you think about your dad a lot. I think about my dad a lot, who's been deceased now almost 2 years. And I said, what about his dad? Like, how often do you think about your grandfather? And she paused and she said, well, I think about him quite a bit. Not as much as I think about my dad, but just the other day he came to my mind. And I said, well, what was his middle name? And she told me his middle name is Lee. And I thought, well, I have no idea what my grandfather's middle name was. I have no idea. And then I said, now, what about his dad? Like, how often do you think about your dad's dad's dad? Like, you think about your dad a lot, she said. You think about your grandfather quite often, but how often do you think about your grandfather? And she said, I don't know that I've ever thought about him. She said, I never knew him. I didn't meet him. And we didn't really have pictures. She said, I don't ever think about him. I said, so you don't know his middle name? She said, I don't know his first name. So here's the morbid thing, the grim thing. Hear me out. It seems that is probably the general consensus for all of us. I mean, I would say the majority of us, unless we're family tree aficionados and we're just passionate about those things, which is not very many of us, I imagine. Most of us probably think about our parents quite often, our grandparents from time to time, and never think about our great-grandparents. So what's the point? My point is that 2 generations after our passing, no one's thinking about us. And that's a hard reality. I mean, we're surrounded by family if we're blessed, and friends if we're really blessed. And all of these people in our lives come and go, and at a moment's notice, we can send a text message to people, and if nothing more than to say, I've been thinking about you. But after we pass, it only takes 2 generations before no one ever thinks about us. Financially speaking, it's very much the same. So we accumulate all of this wealth, or we're trying to, and we're passionate about it, and we have figures and goals, and like we're climbing the ladder, and we're going to exceed more than anyone else in our family, and we're doing all of these things. We're watching our net worth grow and grow and grow. Ideally, we are. At least that's a goal of ours. Certainly it is. Only to discover that after 2 generations of our passing, all of that is gone. I mean, unless you're Donald Trump or Elon Musk, that money's going to be gone. In fact, there's a biblical principle there. The Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children and his children's children. Why doesn't it say to your children's children's children? Because even in the Bible, they understood that after 2 generations, no one's thinking about you. That sounds so grim. It's almost like, what's the point? Why are we doing all of this? When I first kind of came into this epiphany that I feel like the Lord has brought into my heart and my mind, this pressure just totally left me. Like a ton of relief came upon me. It's like, it's not that those things are bad, pursuing wealth even. And certainly financial stability and peace financially. All those things are good. But pursuing it at such a pace that I've been pursuing it, it's like I'm not so sure that that's necessary. So this huge relief came upon me. And I got to thinking about, what is it that I'm passionate about? Like if I can only be passionate about 1 or 2 things, what would that be? For you, it may be something different. But for me, at this point in my life, there's really only 2 things other than my pursuit of the Lord. I would like to think that goes without saying, but maybe that's the problem. Too often that goes without saying. But outside of that, here on earth, what am I pursuing? What are my 2 maybe most passionate things? And one is that I would be a good provider for my family. In particular, my wife, now that my kids are grown. But I want to really be a provider for my family. I want us to have a good, comfortable living that offers a financial peace, so that if the bottom falls out, we're still good. Like they're not coming to take our home. So, a paid for home and just stability in those financial areas. And then secondly, I want in my passing, when I die, in particular if I die before my wife, at whatever point, whether it's today or in 30 years, 40 years, I want my wife to be financially stable, more than stable. I want her to be able to enjoy life. In fact, to the point that every morning when she wakes up, that she's reminded of how good of a provider that her husband was. And I want her to be able to travel, and I want her to be able to have all the luxuries that she desires. Nothing wrong with it. I really want to pursue that. But what I've discovered is that it doesn't take millions for that to happen. I mean, I think a lot of us have said, man, I want to be a millionaire someday. And not just a net worth millionaire. I really want to have fluid millions. Like I want to have spendable cash on hand. I mean, that's the American dream. And I don't know if there's anything wrong with having that dream. But if it comes at an imbalance in our life, in particular a work imbalance, then you have to ask, is it really worth it? In particular, if after 2 generations, no one even cares. I was talking to Joe Deary just this morning. We talked for nearly an hour about this kind of thing. And I told him I was going to make a video about it. And I said, Joe, I wonder how many times that you've struggled to find your car keys or your wallet or the shopping list. You know, those things that keep us at bay. We want to do a thing and we're ready to do it. And we're all dressed up and ready to do it, but we can't because we can't find our keys or our wallet or the shopping list, what have you. You fill in the blank. We've spent a lot of time searching for our car keys. I mean, if you're like me, I've gotten to the point where I've searched everywhere and I've just decided to look in the refrigerator for my car keys, knowing that they're not there. Not only have I wasted a lot of time, but I've wasted a lot of energy. I'm like extremely frustrated because I know my wallet was where I put it last, I think. Now I wonder over a period of a lifetime, and I said, Joe, since you've been driving, I wonder how many times you have lost your wallet or your car keys. Obviously, we don't know. I said, but what if it takes 5 minutes each time to find your wallet? Like it takes 5 minutes over a period of a lifetime, all the times that you couldn't find your car keys. 5 minutes. That's a lot of time. I mean, we would probably be embarrassed about how much time we've wasted on frivolous things like that. So, you know, you're wanting to go out and get a pizza. I don't know, whatever, you fill in the blank. And you're excited about that. You're going to get a pizza. You're going to go get a donut. I don't know what you're going to go get, but then you can't find your car keys. So I wonder if, like at the end of our life, you know, just before you hit the eject button, and the good Lord says, time out, I'm going to give you some more time. Like I'm going to give you all the time that you've wasted looking for your car keys. And then he tells you that number and he flashes that up on a screen. You're like, wow, I've got this much time left. He says you can do anything you want to with it. I dare say that you wouldn't take those car keys and all of that time and go get a pizza or go get a donut. I imagine you'd look back on your life having all of these now days that you have been granted to do anything you want to with. You probably wouldn't say, I'm really going to run those ads on Facebook and I'm really going to promote my business. You'd probably say, gather my family around me. Maybe we'll all go for a pizza. Bring the people who were near and dear to me, the people that I've taken for granted, the people that I've put to the side while I've wasted time doing other things. And you'd bring those people into your life and you'd spend those remaining days with them. You probably wouldn't let them out of your sight. I want to encourage you to focus on your business, to focus on wealth, to focus on health and things that matter here on earth. But don't do it at the expense of well-spent time. And that's where I'm at. I just feel like that if I pursue life with this in mind, in this pace, that all those other things are going to happen. Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." So that's my first path. That's my first passion. And after that, honestly, there's just not much more left. Does this sound like a pressure washing video? I think it can sound like anything. For me, it's a pressure washing video. I am going to set my goals high and lofty. But when those idols fall, they're not going to affect me. I hope this has been an encouragement to you. Totally different than what you were expecting, I know. And it's been a long time since I've posted a video. I really appreciate you watching. You're probably not going to see a lot of these videos in the future. I'm excited about washing. I think I counted 10 washes on the schedule, and it's January the 29th today. And so I'm excited about the future. I hope that you are as well. All right, my name's Mike. They call me the Fresh Rinse, and I'm out.